And it looks like we are live. Yes. And I turned off the waiting room, so people with the access code should be able to join us directly. Also want to welcome Xavier Warren and
hello, everyone.
And Councilmember John Hodges. And as he would say, not to be confused with the many Hodges around town. They're all no relation, but very active people. And I do not yet see Delegate Guzman. I know that Delegate Guzman is in another meeting, so it could be that she comes in a little bit later, and that's fine too. We can just put in people as we go. And let's see, let me change the view here to speaker view. And just so that the people are aware, what's likely the best thing to do is to put your phone on mute when other people are speaking, because otherwise, if you cough or sneeze or whatever happens, if your dog barks, if anything happens, then your screen will pop up and you will be live on the YouTube channel, and it will be there for however long the YouTube channel's up. For those of you who are interested in understanding how the YouTube one works, it is live for right now. However, at the end of the meeting, it will close for about 3 days. And for reasons I don't know, it takes YouTube a few days to process the channel before the video feed is back up and available for people to go back and look at. So it is 10:02 now, and we have a jam-packed meeting. We have several candidates who are vying for many of the 2021 positions, and I want to make sure to give them as much opportunity to speak as possible. And so with that, I am going to go ahead and share my screen and start our meeting as we have it. And so that you know, we have our guest speakers are Delegate Guzman and Xavier Warren. We also have Sean Perryman and Dr. Levy. The first three are candidates for Lieutenant Governor for 2021, and the final person is a candidate for the 55th District for the Virginia House of Delegates. So very important people, and we're very happy to have them and thankful for their willingness to serve. And so the meeting's all the same. It's all so if you want to chime in next month, same thing. It's going to be the same. With that, will all of you join me and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? And allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm going to stop share there. And my apologies if I appear to be rushing through some of our meeting things. There's a lot to discuss. No one could have predicted Wednesday to happen the way it did. On one end, Democrats, we had an amazing victory. And I'm going to ask Ashley Hall to talk about that in just a second. But we really did. We had an amazing victory, and one that was, I really feel like those of us who worked hard at it predicted it, but we're scared to death that anything could happen in a world that we live in today. And it was deeply disturbing to see that victory was overshadowed by some I don't know what you call it, people who were trying to overthrow our government, some insurrection. Yeah, I don't even know the words, but anyway, I'm going to give the floor for a short speech for Ashley Hall. Please give your spiel.
Yeah, hi everybody. So I just wanted to say, I wanted to add on to what Dan just said, which is that while we are all focusing very hard on how to deal with insurrectionists trying to overtake the government and giving that the seriousness that it deserves and focusing on making sure that our legislators hold those people to account. I also want to make sure that we take the time to applaud ourselves and pat ourselves on the back, because it is a method of abusers to try to take away the energy and the joy of the people that have won. And that is exactly what somebody attempted to do. And so I just want to, because I was saying before, my grandparents were resistance fighters in World War II. And it is very much the method of an authoritarian group to sadden and antagonize another group as much as possible. So I just want to encourage us to thank ourselves for all, because there are people in this group that worked extremely hard to flip the Georgia Senate, and people over the country and Georgia worked extremely hard to flip it. We have the presidency, the Senate, and the House, and we need to appreciate that and applaud ourselves and feel joy in that, while at the same time being angry about what happened. So that's all I wanted to say. Oh, Dan, you're still on mute.
Thanks. I appreciate that. That's the phrase of 2020, right? You're on mute. So before I get too far, there are many letters that you're going to see coming around from various organizations calling for the resignation of our president, and possibly for congressmen and women who have supported the president's effort in this insurrection. So as a committee, our executive committee has approved a resolution that I am hoping that the whole committee will approve, that is calling for the resignation of President Trump and Congressman Whitman. In addition to that, there will be an email coming out later today that asks all members to sign their individual name to a resignation letter to that effect that represents the entire 1st Congressional District for the Democrats for our area. So I'm just going to read through our letter. It is not perfect. We are still working on the fine tunes of each individual word and phrase, but by the time we finish today, it will be close to perfect. So bear with me as I read through it as quickly as I can. The Hanover County Democratic Committee adds its voice to those of Senator Mark Warner and Senator Tim Kaine, along with many other Virginia leaders, in asking for the removal of Donald Trump as President of the United States because of the insurrection he encouraged supporters to carry out on January 6th. He invited his militant supporters to Washington to block the January 6th ceremonial counting of electoral votes, certifying Joe Biden as the President-elect of the United States and Kamala Harris as Vice President-elect. Trump not only invited his extreme right-wing supporters, such as the Proud Boys, he incited the riot by ginning up the crowd immediately preceding the riot at the Capitol. This insurrection resulted in the deaths of 5 people, including a U.S. Capitol Police officer, endangered our elected lawmakers, destroyed property throughout the building, desecrated one of democracy's greatest symbols, and breached our national security. The mass confusion of conspiracy theories with unsubstantiated claims of fraud has led to confusion in and distrust of the democratic process. Through his actions, Donald Trump has proven himself unable to serve. There is also concern about his judgment and ability to carry out the basic duties of the president. This country needs a peaceful transition of power at the inauguration of President-elect Joe Biden on January 20th. In addition to the removal of Donald Trump, the Hanover County Democratic Committee is calling for the resignation of 1st District Congressman Rob Whitman and all those who made an effort to block the affirming of the electoral ballots as part of the effort to block the swearing in of Biden and Harris. This group of congressmen aided in turning a largely ceremonial event into a catastrophe. No one should ever storm the halls of the Capitol building and defame our government the way that these rioters did on Wednesday, January 6th. We feel unsafe with Trump in the White House, and we feel that our congressman has not shown himself able to carry out the duties he swore to uphold. Our country deserves to have leaders who are willing to serve and protect us from insurrection, not promote it. Signed, Hanover County Democratic Committee. So do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstention? All right, so this letter with some minor tweaks will carry out because we just want to make sure that we're really clear on what we're trying to say and convey with this. And basically it's, we do not need traitors in the White House. That is the first thing that we need to make sure of. And let's see. I put the agenda into the note. You can still take the survey to decide whether or not you think it's a good idea to have an elected school board and give us your opinion on that. There are many people who feel strongly on that topic, and we just want to know your opinion. That pretty much is it. So with that, I am now going to introduce Dr. Rachel Levy. She's going to speak for a few minutes on her announcement to run as the Virginia 55th delegate district. And at this point, I would normally go into a whole long spiel, but we're short on time. And so I just know that I have known Rachel for a good long time. She has wonderful children. They're in the school system. She's a teacher, and she is definitely an all-in person. So with that, a few minutes for Dr. Levy. Would you like to unmute and speak for a few minutes?
Yes, thank you. Can everyone hear me? Yep. All right, here we go. Well, good morning, Hanover Democrats. I am thrilled to announce that I am running for delegate here in the 55th district. My name, again, is Rachel Levy. I am a longtime HDC member and community activist and leader. I am a teacher, a parent. I have a PhD in educational leadership and policy. I live in the town of Ashland with my husband and 3 children. I believe that public education is the backbone of a healthy democracy. I believe healthcare is a human right, and that we must protect our environment and conserve our natural resources. I want to thank the trailblazing women who ran before me, Tony Radler and Morgan Goodman. And like them, I believe it is past time for competent, independent-minded, service-oriented, principled, and yes, democratic representation for the people of the 55th district. And I pledge to bring you that. To get there, though, I need your help. This is a grassroots campaign powered by the people. My opponent is powered by corporations. So during this soft launch phase, I need you to help me spread the word and build this campaign so I can reach the most constituents, hire the best people, and activate the most effective field operation possible. I am on Facebook and Twitter, and I have a rudimentary website and an ActBlue account. Those are all in the chat. The links are in the chat. Since I announced my candidacy on Thursday evening, in not even 48 hours, I have raised over $4,000 just in small donations. My goal is to reach $10,000 by the end of January, and I would love your help in doing that. The 55th, I'm not gonna lie, it's a tough district for a Democrat, but with your support and help, it is possible. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your support.
Thank you, Dr. Levy. I appreciate that. And I guess I should have mentioned, guys, how today will run. There's not going to be time for questions at the end of each speaker, but at the end of our meeting, we will have time for questions and answers. So, so if you have questions for Dr. Levy, or if you have questions for Delegate Guzman or Sean Perryman or Xavier Warren, please hold them till after each of them has a chance to give their opening statements. And if any of them are able to stay on after 11, where we officially close our meeting and cancel our recording, please stay on and have a grassroots, more intimate conversation where people don't feel like they have to hold their words, if you will, because of it being recorded. The purpose of it being recorded is because some of our members just can't Zoom in, don't feel comfortable. Also, I want to have a platform where each of our candidates can say, yeah, I'm on record saying this, and this is where I believe, and I was willing to put that live somewhere. So I'm going to introduce our 3 candidates for Lieutenant Governor all at once, and then I'm going to ask them each to speak in order. So we have Delegate Elizabeth Guzman, who's from Prince William, and she's a social worker and a delegate for our Virginia State. many of you may remember that she came out to help support Qasim's campaign in the middle of that monsoon rainstorm in Ashland. And she braved the water, the wet and everything, and came out and spoke and on behalf of him and our Senator, Mark Warner. And, we won, a good portion of that. We fell short on some instances, but greatly appreciate her support. We have Sean Perryman from Fairfax. He has served as the president of the NACP for his area. He's been on the Democratic Steering Committee. He's been on the Oversight Committee for Congressman Elijah Cummings, and also he is looking for the nod for the Lieutenant Governor. And then finally, we have Xavier Warren, who's from Arlington. He's a contract advisor for the NFL, and he and I've had some pretty good conversations. I think I even had a good conversation with Sean Perryman. I should have mentioned that as well. But Xavier was at our last meeting when we introduced Senator McClellan as a candidate for governor. And so some of you had a little bit of FaceTime with him, but he was quite impressed with the way we ran our meeting and said, hey, I want to be part of that. And so, it means we have a wide office of people and some very good people. And so with that, I want to go ahead and bring up Delegate Guzman. Please have your opening statement for us. And again, guys, please hold your questions till the end. And I know it's going to be tough, but if you want to put your questions in the chat and then we come back to them, we can always do that too. Okay? Delegate Guzman.
Good morning. Good morning, and thank you so much for having me, Hanover Dams. I am Delegate Elizabeth Guzman, and I proudly represent the 31st District in the House of Delegates, which includes parts of Prince William and Fauquier counties. I'm a social worker, a public administrator, a union sister, a mother to 4 children, an immigrant, and a fighter for working people and progressive values. And I'm very excited to be here with you today as I talk to my bid to become the first woman and the first Latinx person to serve as your next Lieutenant Governor. I wanted to share with you a little bit about my story. When I came first to this country with $300 in my pocket and a little girl, I worked 3 minimum wage jobs to afford a 1-bedroom apartment. I put myself through Northern Virginia Community College, and I eventually earned 2 master's degrees. I worked in the Fairfax County Public Schools and the Fairfax Office for Children, and later I built a career as a social worker protecting children from neglect and abuse. I now work for the City of Alexandria Department of Human Services, where I oversee a $20 million budget for a 200-person operations staff serving some of our most vulnerable populations, including senior citizens, struggling with food insecurity, and people with substance abuse disorders. I first became engaged in politics as an activist in 2006, when Corey Stewart was trying to bring 287G program to Prince William County, which deputizes local law enforcement officers to act as agents of ICE. This program leads to racial profiling of the Latinx community. But what I remember the most about fighting this program was that it was not unique to the Latinx community by itself. It was a true multiracial coalition. I remember Senator Tim Kaine joined us. And this year, when we finally ended, our Black brothers and sisters joined us and protested as well. And we stood with them this summer to say that Black Lives Matter and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor deserve justice. We as Democrats and as Americans are stronger when we stand with and for each other. But it wasn't until Hillary lost when I decided to run for office myself. My son, Carlos, who was 9 years old at the time, told me that we have to return to Peru because Donald Trump didn't like people who spoke Spanish. So I filed to run for the House of Delegates so that I could show my son that Virginia is his home and that Guzman is an American name. And I won't go into detail, but there were some people who asked, how do you think you can do this? How are you going to do this with your job and your kids? Or how are you going to raise $1 million to win this election? But I did it, not once, but twice. I did not let that bother me because as a brown woman, as an immigrant with an accent, I'm used to being underestimated. But there are some good things about being underestimated. It forces you to work harder and be better because the bar is higher. And when you exceed people's expectations, they are like, wow, I did not see that coming. And the 16-year Republican incumbent whom I beat by 9 points did not see that coming either. Shortly after I was elected in 2017, I was selected as the chair of the freshman class of Democratic delegates. And Nancy Pelosi invited me to give the Spanish response to Trump's State of the Union address. It was such an honor to go to Capitol, and I have never been more proud to be an American, and I've never been more proud to represent Virginia. And I know you are just as enraged as I am by the attack on our democracy this week. And I want to commend you for the efforts that you are making. And it is shameful that Congressman Rob Whitman wanted to refuse to accept the results. So kudos for you. But the domestic terrorists, the people Amanda Chase fired up just because they stormed the Capitol, will not win. And I am fired up because America is worth fighting for, and Virginia is worth fighting for. And I want to serve this country that gave me the opportunity to achieve the American dream, gave me the opportunity of an education and a better life. Which brings me to why I decided to run for lieutenant governor. Because first and foremost, I view the role of lieutenant governor as a promotion for an effective legislator, someone who can hit the ground running since day one, a leader who has delivered on the promises they have made. I have passed 19 pieces of legislation and introduced many more in the areas of healthcare, workers' rights, the environment, education, criminal justice reform. I am the chair of the Social Services Subcommittee and the vice chair of the Education Committee. And in 2020, the Virginia Education Association, which represents more than 40,000 teachers and support professionals, named me the Legislator of the Year. And I'm proud of the historic investments we have made in public education, including raising teacher pay. I fought to reduce the caseloads of school counselors and special education aides. And I was proud to work with the First Lady in the largest investment we recently made in the area of early childhood education. And I was named also legislative leader by the League of Conservation Voters for fighting for policies to protect the environment and hold corporate polluters accountable. And I have built a strong record on progressive values by standing up and speaking truth to power. And I'm proud of the progress that we have made. But my struggle of many years ago is still the struggle of many people in Virginia. There are 1.2 million Virginians, including 2/3 of our frontline workers, who have no access to paid sick days. And that is why I've introduced a paid sick days bill every single year, but it has not gotten through the Senate Commerce and Labor Committee. But I'm not giving up. And I am introducing a paid sick days bill for our essential workers in the next legislative session. I am running for lieutenant governor because I'm ready to be a progressive voice for working families in the Senate. Because if this pandemic has taught us anything, is that healthcare is a human right and we need paid sick days for all. And this pandemic has also taught us that it's important to be listening to people, especially the essential workers who are actually doing the job. And as we think about how we're going to safely we need to make sure teachers have a seat at the table through collective bargaining rights. And I'm very proud to have passed that historic legislation that lifted Virginia's blanket ban on public sector collective bargaining and will allow localities like Hanover to opt in to giving their teachers a voice on the job. Today, I'm humbly asking you to join Team Guzman. The 2021 election is going to require a strong Democrat, someone who can build coalitions, a progressive Democrat who's willing to listen and fight unapologetically for the values that we care about the most. I know this because I did it as the co-chair of the Bernie Sanders Virginia campaign and as a member of the Joe Biden National Latino Leadership Council. We don't have Donald Trump in the White House anymore. So we're going to have to get people fired up by what we can actually do to make their lives better, because progressives and moderates really aren't all that different. Urban and rural Democrats aren't that different. We all hold the same values that make us proud Democrats. We believe people should have good jobs and good health care and good internet and good education for their children, no matter what the zip code is. We believe climate change is real and everyone should have access to broadband access. And if you join me, you'll be in good company. I'm proud to share that I was endorsed by Casa in Action, which is the largest electoral organization fighting for immigrants' rights. And I'm also the only candidate in this race to have been endorsed by 2 labor unions and more to come. We have so much work to do as we recover from this pandemic, achieve racial justice, expand healthcare for all, and build a Virginia that is not only #1 for business, but also for workers. So I hope I can count on your support, and I'll be remiss if I don't acknowledge the people who have run for office before. Dr. Levy, very nice meeting you. And I want to acknowledge Morgan, Stan, John, who are present among the audience today. Thank you for running for office. We would not have a majority in the House of Delegates without your courage and without your energy to put your name to run for office. So thank you so much. It's very nice seeing you and look forward to your questions at the end. Thank you and Happy New Year.
Bienvenida.
Thank you. Thank you, Delegate Guzman. I'm already having chills, so I can only imagine what the next 2 candidates are going to be like. Our next one is Sean Perryman from Fairfax. Mr. Perryman?
Yes, thank you. And hello, everyone. Happy New Year. And congratulations to Dr. Levy for jumping in the race. Looking forward to that. Did not think I would be joining you in such an interesting week, but here we are. And, you know, in this moment, it doesn't feel even appropriate to be talking about the next election, but in Virginia, every year is an election. So I know you all are prepared for that. But I want to tell you a little bit about myself and my journey and how it connects to this week and what I've been reflecting on in the last few days. You know, in 2016, I had thought I had made it. I was the first in my family to even go to college, let alone go to law school. I went to law school at Vanderbilt. And like so many others, I graduated, and first thing I had to think about was, how do you pay off all that debt? So I was working at a large law firm representing many large companies and doing that, and really at the top of what I felt was the profession I was in. And I followed politics, was always engaged in that. Some of my first internships were at the UN and the State Department. So policy has always been a part of my life. But in 2016, I was working at a law firm, and my life was forever changed when a partner walked into my office and said, "Our firm is representing Donald Trump, and we want you to be the senior associate on the case." And so I was faced with, at that time, candidate Trump and what that stood for. And I watched the TV in horror every night up until that moment. And I was being asked now at this very high paying job to do that, to represent this man. And not just in any case, not like, oh, he didn't pay his, his painter or something like that. This was the case against Chef Jose Andres. Chef Andres had quit the business partnership they had where he was supposed to build a restaurant in the Trump Hotel. And he quit because of the comments that Donald Trump made about Mexicans and people of color. And they wanted me to go in the courtroom and say that that wasn't so bad, to minimize that and defend Donald Trump. So I quit my job. I walked out of the job and I didn't have a plan. I had just bought a house, but I knew what Trumpism was then. And I knew I wanted no parts of it. But I didn't realize at the time, because in the moment you never do, that that would change the trajectory of my life. I ended up meeting someone who became a mentor to me, Congressman Elijah Cummings. And he was kind enough to hire me as counsel on the House Oversight Committee. And I got to work with Congressman Cummings and all the Democrats on that committee, advising them. Got to see the end of the Obama administration. But no spoilers here, you know how that ended. I also ended up seeing the beginning of the Trump administration, something we could never have imagined. So in the same year, I went from being asked to represent Trump to investigating Trump. And as crazy as that is, that's the story of that year for me. But I'll never forget when Donald Trump was elected, and I've been thinking about this all week. When he was elected, Congressman Cummings called a conference call, and he called in, and we were all depressed, as I'm sure many of you were. And he said to us, "You have to be ready for this because we are fighting for the very soul of our democracy." In 2016, the day after Donald Trump was elected, he said we were fighting for the very soul of our democracy. And those words are what guided me through my entire time on that committee and investigating Michael Flynn and all the characters that we now know. And we saw the slow erosion of our democratic norms, and we saw what he did to our country. But I knew that we weren't going to get him out through impeachment and everything else because there were so many people who were complicit with that. So I went and said, what can I do in my local community? How can I get involved? And I went to the Democratic Committee in Fairfax County where I lived, and I went to the NAACP. And I was lucky enough within a few years to become the youngest president in our 102-year history of the NAACP in Fairfax County. And I grew that organization in a year and a half from 300 members to 1,400 members. And I did that by going out into the community and doing the work, organizing. I started talking to people, meeting them where they were. And Fairfax County is about 9 to 10% Black. So I didn't just reach out to the Black community. I reached out to every community, the Latino community, the white community. I brought us together. And I took on fights that they said that we couldn't win. I remember one of the early fights that I took on was changing the name of Robert E. Lee High School, which they said would be impossible. This year, we changed it to John Lewis High School. Because when you put your mind to something, when you bring people together, you can accomplish it. So this is what I've been doing in my community. I've been working with folks. We've worked on the school to prison pipeline. Within 1 year, we made changes to our memorandum of understanding between the police and the schools that led to a 60% reduction countywide in our county of arrest of students. So that's 60% in the 10th largest county in the country. These are monumental changes. This year, I led the charge, and I was just endorsed by Supervisor Rodney Luss, who's our chair of public safety. Because of this, I led the charge to change our first responder system so that we have mental health crisis people who come out for people who have mental health disturbances. I've been doing this work in the community because I care about it. And I never thought I would run for office. I got to work with a lot of congressmen and Democratic members, and I've also done a lot of advocacy here on the state level, and I was happy doing that. But I'm running because of the moment we are in. We don't have time. We don't have the time for the politics of personal ambition. We don't have time for the horse trading of politics anymore. We need people who are out there, who have organized in community and who are willing to go statewide and fight for us, because we are facing an environmental crisis. We are facing a crisis for our working class. I just published an op-ed in the Washington Post about repealing right to work, because here in Virginia, we're ranked dead last for workers, but first for businesses. We need to balance that out. We need to make sure that we are not only helping people, we are empowering them to help themselves. So these are the things that I'm about. I usually give a stump speech and tell people about the E's of my campaign, which are near and dear to my heart: the education, environment, and economics. But we also have to talk about empowerment. How do we empower the communities that feel left behind? Whether you're in rural Virginia, you don't have broadband access, which nowadays means you don't have education, access to your educational system. You don't have access to remote work. You don't have access to the training that you need to survive. How do we change these? How do we change these? How do we use policy solutions to help empower people? This is what I've been going around talking about. I've been lucky enough to be endorsed by a lot of people. President Robert Barnett, who's a state president of NAACP, and I believe is also from Hanover. I've been endorsed by Delegate Kay Corey. The reason they are endorsing me because they've worked with me, and I've worked on statewide coalitions to help make changes to our community. So at the beginning of this pandemic, I started working community. We were able to save 30 small businesses all throughout the state. We were able to help frontline workers, but I knew there was more to be done. And when I see the events of this week, I know that Trumpism isn't going away. You don't just walk away, and one man isn't responsible for what we saw on Wednesday. That is a strain of racism. That is a strain of authoritarianism and fascism that we need to fight and name. And that's why I've called for Amanda Chase, not just to resign. I've said we need to expel her, because this is not an issue where it's bipartisan or partisan, where it's Democrat, Republican. It's an issue of what are your American values? Do you believe in our democracy or do you not? And many people are not divided along the lines of Democrat and Republican. They are divided along the lines of engaged and disengaged. And you as organizers know that. So what I'm hoping to do with this statewide race, and what I'm hoping you will do in joining me, and you can do it at my website, pyramidforvirginia.com, is that we are going to engage on these issues. We are going to speak to people and meet them where they are, but we are not going to mince words. And for those that may follow me on Twitter or know me in any way, you know I do not mince words. We need to be direct in what we are doing here. And because our democracy is at stake, our environment is at stake, our working class is at stake. We're running out of time, and this is our moment to do something about it. So I come to you humbly asking for your support, but I would be happy to tell you about all the things that I do and everything. But I'm in a moment now where I'm just saying, we need to get out there and fight, and we need to do this, and we need the people there that are willing to articulate it and go forward. So I thank you for letting me join you today. You can learn more about me at perrymanforvirginia.com. I'm a tech policy expert. That's what I do now. I work for a company called the Internet Association. Happy to talk about some of the broadband issues, artificial intelligence issues that we have, but really happy to just join you in this space during this monumental time in American history to talk about how we can join together as Virginians to fight back. Because so much of what we're starting here, whether it's Bill Barr or Ken Cuccinelli, we produce those people. So it's now this time that we produce the leaders to fight back. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate that. And we now have Xavier Warren also running for Lieutenant Governor from Arlington. Xavier?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Good to see you again. I was here last month. First, I want to say, Dr. Levy, I love your speech and encouragement, also your reason, your why you're doing this. So any way I could be able to support, you will have my email. Just real love to connect. First, before I start, I want to say that if some of you all, just like myself, I'm from Virginia, born here. I have family that live in counties surrounding Richmond that actually commute to Washington, D.C. for a livable wage job and actually live on and also work on Capitol Hill. So I just pray and hope that if you all had any friends, family members, or members of Congress, staffers, or any workers that were at present on what happened this week on Capitol Hill, I pray and hope that they actually arrived home safely and unharmed. So I just want to state that as first. I'm Xavier Warren. I'm running for Lieutenant Governor because many small businesses have died and closed during the coronavirus pandemic, and many more are still dying each and every week. Thousands of people have lost their jobs and are now standing in unemployment lines. 1 in 3 people took a salary pay cut. 1 in 4 people do not have enough food to eat, and tragically, many of these hungry people are children. Many of us are being evicted from our homes and our apartments and are facing where we're going to live due to affordability. The Lieutenant Governor position is a business position that focuses on generating economic development, advancing entrepreneurship, and creating jobs. Let me tell you why I am different than all the other candidates. I'm an entrepreneur who actually has the business experience to lead Virginia's post-pandemic economy. A little bit about myself. I was actually born in Pennsylvania County, Danville, Southside Virginia, rural Virginia. Where I came from, there's not a lot of economic opportunity. You either had to go work at Goodyear building tires or go in the military. But I came in from a working class family. My parents wanted my brother and I to actually go to college and be the first ones to graduate with a degree. I was blessed enough to attend a minority serving institution, a Hampton University in the Hampton Roads area, where I went and furthered my education at Georgetown University to achieve my childhood dream of becoming an NFL sports agent, where today I grew a company that represents over 22 NFL players. For someone that have a childhood dream that came from Danville in Pennsylvania County to where I am now as a businessman, when I achieved that dream, Hanover, I knew how unique and special it was for me to even say that. That day, I thought that it would be an exciting day for me, but also I remembered the hardship, perseverance, discrimination, the pushback, the no's that I had to persevere through to get to that point, and that how a lot of people, just like me from Pennsylvania County, a rural county, did not have that same opportunity. So after I achieved my childhood dream, I then said to myself, I want to devote my life to helping other people, my time, talent, and treasure to be able to achieve their childhood dream. Again, I was raised in a home. My mom always told me, you say what you mean and you mean what you say, but you do it more with your action. So I then started out here in Arlington County, another successful business, a federal grants business, because I found out that a lot of what people are struggling with are finances. They do not have enough money to get a house for where in the area where they work. They do not have enough money to get access to broadband. They do not have enough money to get the right insurance. They do not have enough money to get a quality healthcare. They do not have enough money to get a quality education. It all comes down to financial stability and financial means. And one thing I learned about this journey is the difference between the have and the have-nots is those who know and those who don't know, and those who actually have that money in their pocket. So I started a successful federal grants business that has brought in millions of dollars to be able to help folks in need to achieve those actual abilities and make that type of impact. As you know, the federal government spends over $4.4 trillion annually. Virginia actually gets its fair share for its 8.5 million residents here, but a lot of that money that the federal government has goes out to grants to fund for healthcare, education, workforce development, and also broadband. During the pandemic alone, my team has helped hospitals, schools, and also local governments to bring in the necessary over $9 million to be able to help people get back on their feet. We achieved over $5 million to be able to help with minority serving students so they could be able to continue to keep their education. We all brought in $2.5 million to help people that are returning from jails and reentry service programs from workforce training and development to be able to get jobs with livable wages. We also brought in $1 million in telehealth equipment and internet connection so the older generation could be able to still get connected and get the laptops and hotspots to meet with their physicians during the pandemic, and over $300,000 for women that are suffering from domestic violence. I'm a proud Virginian. I'm from here. I was born here, and also I was educated in our education system from public schools to Hampton University. I know what we could do as a Democratic committee. I'm a proud member of Arlington County's Democratic Committee. I did phone banking for COSM when we had our folks come help out. I've donated to Cameron Webb. I lit drop for Senator Warner and Joe Biden, phone bank and serve as a poll observer and election day poll greeter to make sure that we got Kamala Harris and also Joe Biden in the White House. I know what we could do when we can come together and support each other. It is essential that our next lieutenant governor is someone who actually has the experience to perform these business duties, so we could be able to get everybody back on their feet so they could be able to achieve any goals that they set out for our sons, daughters, and grandchildren. If they want a childhood dream, if they want a job with a livable wage, but most importantly, if they want to start their own business themselves, we can do that. Thank you for your time. God bless you. And I would look forward to answering any of your questions. And I would love your support if you visit XavierForVirginia.com. The information will be in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Xavier. I appreciate it. Like I said, I have chills listening to all three of you. We're definitely going to choose a great candidate, and it's going to be hard to select one, honestly, because a lot of good candidates here. Are there any? I'm going to open up the floor at least for the next 5 minutes. Are there any questions for any of our candidates?
I have a question, Danielle.
Yes.
Delegate Guzman, I wanted to, well, I guess thank you for all of your hard work in lifting the ban on collective bargaining. I have seen that there is a bill that was submitted by Glenn Davis, which would restrict the topic areas, including disciplining local government employees. I'm wondering whether you feel that it's could pass, and whether you see any other changes to the existing collective bargaining bills.
Right now, it looks like Guzman's still on mute. delegate might come back on in just a moment.
Oh dear, she's muted.
Yeah, I know that's been like the word of 2020. You're on mute, right?
Well, can I also ask Daniel the other candidates what their views are on collective bargaining for local government employees?
Sure.
Sure. I would say I'm on the record as supporting collective bargaining. I'm also supporting repealing right to work as well as paid sick leave. If you go to my website and look on the issues, it was very important to me to put out my positions on my website so that no one could ever say that I'm telling one group one thing and another group another thing. So I am with you 100% on that.
Thank you.
Xavier?
He said he'd be back at 11 to answer questions.
Oh, that works out even better because, maybe, Mr. Perryman, are you on a rush to go out?
And answering the questions. That's fine with me.
Okay, well then what I'll do is I'll finish up our meeting because maybe some people were planning to be here at 11 for that. And then that way when I can stop recording, you might get some more candid questions, when I'm not recording stuff. And that might be more beneficial.
Recording or not, I'll answer the question as honestly as I can.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about more of there are people in the crowd that might not feel comfortable being on the camera. You might be comfortable because you're running for candidate. That takes the bravery, right? It takes a lot of guts to be on camera and to put yourself under scrutiny. So anyway, let me finish with the meeting, and then I will keep all of the candidates on and open up the floor to further discussion if that's okay with people in the meeting. I'm seeing some thumbs up, some nods. So awesome. So with that, I want to go through a brief announcement, and I will also be putting in the chat again this agenda updated with all of the contact information. So I received stuff from Dr. Levy, from Warren, from Perryman, from Guzman, all their contact stuff. And so I'm putting that I'll put that again into the chat as an updated agenda, if you will. And so I wanted to give from Jamie Duran just an update from the Board of Supervisors and School Board. There is a great deal of discussion going on about the future committees and zonings and so forth going on in our area. We're not taking a stance as a committee, but we think it's important that people know what's going on so that they can make some informed decisions. The supervisors have disbanded the broadband committee. There is some discussion in the newspaper about the Brown Grove development and the Hickory Grove development. And if you're interested in learning more or signing a petition, you can go to Hanover's Future, and that'll be that's also going to be in my agenda, where you can click on the link to see how to get to that information. And there's, let's see. For the school board, there is a lot of discussion about the return to learn. Some students going from virtual to face-to-face, vice versa, and what that means for the teachers and the students. There's a great bit of discussion on that. And if you want to chime in, please attend the next school board meeting, which I think is Tuesday coming up. And I think it's virtual, and I'm almost certain that it will be available. I don't know if it'll be available through YouTube or another site, but there will be a site of some sort that will let you see it. And I know that Together Hanover often puts it out there, like when they can, so that you can chime in through their Facebook site. Not to throw Together Hanover, under the bus there, but often that's how I get it, just because sometimes I can't access it through the website as well. But coming up, there will be a discussion about the budget, and 2 of the school board members will be up for reappointment, South Anna District and Cold Harbor. And again, there is also discussion about whether or not we should have elected school board. And again, please share your opinion or sign the petition as you see fit. Lots of discussion on that and so forth. I want to give a few minutes for an announcement for any upcoming campaigns. I think Morgan Goodman at least wanted to mention something.
Yes, I just wanted to let everybody know, if you are around today, Jennifer McClellan is having a drive-through petition rally from 3 to 5 this evening at the Maggie Walker Governor's School. So if you are able to attend, she's collecting signatures in a drive-through rally this afternoon.
Thank you, Morgan. And Diane, did you want to give an update on the women's coffee?
Yes. We're having our January coffee on January the 20th, Inauguration Day. It's at 7 p.m. Zoom, of course. And we'll be celebrating a new president and a new vice president. And we're also going to be looking forward to what's going to be going on this year in our political situation here in Virginia. Clark Mercer, who is, of course, the governor's chief of staff, will be our speaker. So I hope all the ladies here can join us, and let your Democratic women friends know. We always have a good time at our coffee. So thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Don, would you like to give an update on the men's forum? I'm not seeing.
He's muted.
He's still on mute there.
I'm sorry. Our January meeting is Wednesday, January 27th at 7 o'clock, again by Zoom. What's happening with COVID-19 in Hanover County? We're having the Caitlin Hodge, who is the COVID response team leader for Chickahominy Health District, as our speaker. Hopefully she'll be able to tell us something about how we get our vaccines, where we get our vaccines. There's enough of us that are in the senior group that should be able to get them hopefully in maybe early February. I don't know, but come and listen to her, and she'll have a lot of information also about where we are, what is happening with COVID-19. Are we doing anything to help things here in Hanover? Again, Wednesday, January 27th at 7 o'clock by Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you. Also wanted to give an update from Carolyn Cook. I'm not sure if she's on the call, but I know she gave us this information. She has recycled over 100 pounds of wire from our signs and over 200 pounds of the plastic. And the company she works through takes that plastic and turns it into park benches. And so there's a 5th park bench that now has been created for one of her nonprofit groups that one of her friends supports. Also, she and some other people are working hard on the Hanover's future, and they have a Facebook page where if you're concerned about the development around Hanover County, please check out their Facebook page, and you can contact her directly at ctcook9108. And again, it's in the agenda, all that contact information, and I'm going to put it again in our chat one more time before I leave, or you can go to the website hanoversfuture.org if you want to learn more. Again, that's her own. That's a different organization, but I just wanted to make it known to people who may be of interest to that. We have one new member application. That is Mary Shirty. And do I have a motion to approve the new member?
Move, we approve.
Approved.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any new business brought before us?
Dan, could I have just 30 seconds real quick?
Go ahead.
First of all, Rachel, I'm so excited that you're running. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be donating to Rachel's campaign today. Everybody else needs to drop 5, 10, 15 bucks in there, whatever you can. We need to get this in. Morgan and Tony set the stage. Now Rachel's going to win this seat. Also, I'd like to recognize Stephen Walsh, a good friend of the Hanover Committee. He's dialed in from England today to say hello. He worked hard on my campaign. He worked hard for Morgan. He worked hard for Kevin Washington. So everyone give him a quick wave. And finally, we got to find someone to run against Scott Wyatt in the 97th. Okay, we have to do that. Don't make me do it. but we have to do it. Okay, so let's talk about that at some point and figure out who we can volunteer to do that. Okay, that's all I got, Dan. Thank you.
Then you can run with me. We can be like, running partners, which will be the best thing ever.
I hope it doesn't come to that, but he cannot be allowed to run unopposed. That cannot happen.
No.
Well, thank you for that. Any other new business for the good of the group? Okay, I plan to stay on for this because I still would love to hear from some of our candidates. And so but I do want to stop the live feed. So is there a motion to adjourn the recording?
So moved.
Second.
All right, so we don't need a second or vote. Once it's adjourned, once the movement is adjourned, we're adjourned. So